Are you tired of the same old reviews where angry nerds shout obscenities at video games? Sit back, relax, and bring your minds into overdrive, because this is the new and improved review system called Video Game Philosophy. And I'm the Video Game Philosopher. First off, this review is not a review at all. It's actually a philosophical proof that I'm going to present to you. It's on a controversial subject, so if you are easily offended, you may not want to listen. But let me tell you my viewpoint. I'm a Catholic male, very proud of that fact, and very committed to that fact. But not only that, I'm a Catholic male with a philosophical background that is Western. Very Western. I do understand Eastern philosophy, but most of this proof comes from a very Western, grounded philosophical understanding. With that being said, I now present to you Science and God. I have to apologize for the audio. I recorded this in a large room, and the sound quality was not what I thought it would be. And then, unfortunately, upon listening to it, I realized that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it is audible. But ignore the lack of quality that this video might entail. This is intended to create an understanding of God and science that dispels the God of the gaps theory and the idea that science and religion are in conflict. Evolution is scientific fact, not opinion. Physics is fact, not opinion. Biology is fact, not opinion. God is real is fact, not opinion. Opinion is actually the culmination of facts used to draw an intangible conclusion. For example, smaller government can lead to free market trends is a fact. Bigger government can lead to more social programs and more ethical business practices is a fact. But picking one to create a political position becomes an opinion. Both facts exist in a causal way. They are observed from cause and effect. These facts have been documented and observed over years and are purported as fact, and these facts then become the basis of political thought. Now, to the believer, a theist, God is knowledge. For example, a Christian would look at John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning of God. All things came to be through him, and without him nothing came to be. What came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race. A believer sees that as God being all-encompassing knowledge and life. The Word became flesh, thus the infinite became something we could enter into, at least according to Christian theology. Essentially, all knowledge is God. No fact proves or disproves God. They're all part of the mechanism God has employed in our world, universe, or existence. The idea is revelation, not demonstration. Knowledge is revealed to us through empirical data collection. However, God is the knowledge being sought since He is in all things. He's not the God in spite of the facts, but rather the God of the facts. Religiosity does not exist as an aside to reason. Actually, religion exists to reason. Religion exists to reason how and why we exist. Science exists to reason as to how we exist. Religious people sometimes feel that God is only in the places that are without proof. Well, that's a very bad argument because God exists in all things, factual or not, if you are adherent to a theist philosophy. Limiting God to a God only found in the gaps is like saying God only exists in human ignorance. But he also exists in intelligence too, so these don't compute. Someone who dismisses God because he lacks the proof of God's existence is also committing the same error. Both arguments rely on the God in the gaps. Christians look for God in there, and atheists dismiss God because he isn't there. Now, agnosticism is a philosophical middle ground that lacks an argument. God exists when I see him and does not exist when I don't see him, but I'm open to both sides. However, agnostics set up a losing bet in a way. For example, my friend Jason and I have a bet in which we say Star Wars will never be remade or will be remade. I'm on the side that it will not be remade, but Jason says it will. The winner gets $1 from the loser. The issue is with this argument. Jason is the only one who can win. I can never win definitively, but Jay is the only one that can win the dollar. Because I'm on the side that it will not be remade. Right now I'm winning, but there's no definitive end to that. Because if it's remade, I've lost. But up until that point, I can never win. Jason's the only one that can win. The agnostic argument is one that cannot lose, and thus is not open to too much scrutiny. There is nothing wrong with that, but it can draw a wrong conclusion by fundamentalist Christians. Agnosticism is not. They say agnosticism is atheism. That is false. Atheism is the total rejection of God. Agnosticism is the possibility of God, but not until evidence is presented. Both sides want God to be a discoverable end to information. That as soon as we find all the information in this universe, then we can find God. That's not an accurate statement. God is not a discoverable end if he is believed to be infinite and beyond our existence. This is also a similar argument from before. God is infinite and beyond our comprehension, so we can never truly discover him. This claim is invalid as God has sent his only Son. Jesus was a man who had a finite existence. So as Christians, we are invited to know God. Knowledge is God. So when we learn about the universe, we learn God. Let's think of it this way. Science answers the how of the universe. How do the planets orbit the sun? How do molecules come together to form life? How the universe was started? How we got here? Religion attempts to answer the why. Why are we here? Why does the universe exist? Why do we need to learn about it? Here's an example of what I mean. Let's take a car. Science would look at it as a combustion engine with axles, tires, and observation has shown that cars move people over great distances. Now, this is how it works and what it does. Where religion looks at it one step further. The car is to move people and to help bring the world closer. Now, that argument really doesn't have a quantifiable means to it. You can't sit there and watch literally the world coming closer and closer. But religion attempts to answer the why. Why did we invent the car? Or why is the universe the way it is? Why do we exist? Those typically, philosophical questions, why are we here? And everyone's like floating around, and it just gets really messy after that. These distinct advantages inform the purpose and function of a car. A purely scientific standpoint can only look at the evidence. The evidence shows people use a car to ambulate. The religious person sees the purpose of the car in a less empirical way. Science will determine what purpose something serves, but neglect the why it serves this purpose. Sometimes they answer the why, but it's not the big why. Like, why the why there are peroxisomes. In biology, peroxisomes serve a very specific purpose. They separate the oxygen molecule from hydrogen peroxide. Why do they do that? So we have water and we're not dealing with a toxic chemical in our cells. But why do we even have cells? Why do we have life? Science really can only answer the how it exists, how it works, what it does. And it can only say how the universe exists. Now, when both sides, religion and science, encroach on each other, they create a false dilemma. There is no conflict between the two realms. In fact, religion has given the vocabulary to scientists to explore. And science has given religion a means to investigate supernatural claims in a natural way. Both have informed each other, but neither one serves to disprove the other. And to do so is an erroneous argument. From a Christian standpoint, God created existence. Science explains the creation, not discounts the creation. Just because we came from a single-celled organism does not dispute God. It disputes an interpretation of God. And that's what people are arguing about. They're not arguing about the actual facts. They're arguing about their interpretation of a God they want to control. I choose personally to see God in everything. The way in which minute proteins and molecules come together to form consciousness. The way in which brain fluids dictate responses in life. We know how these processes work, but there is still a majesty and grandeur to the facts. This is not a disproof of God because, why? Because we know how something works? That doesn't disprove God by any stretch of the imagination. It allows us an insight into the grandeur of God, if we choose to look at it that way. Physics spans both sides of this infinity of God, if you want to think of it this way. Atomic physicists look at the infinitely small quarks, atoms, protons, electrons, neutrons. Astrophysicists look at the infinitely big. Stars, galaxies, novas, supernovas, nebulae. Now, they haven't seen God at the other end, but that's assuming God is an end to knowledge. But just because they haven't seen him on either end doesn't mean that he's not there. God is the only beginning and the continuum of knowledge. Now, scientists who reject God outrightly close themselves to the possibility of knowledge, just as religious people who reject science close themselves to the knowledge. Both sides lack a firm plot to stand on, and both sides think that there is only one right answer. But as we keep finding out, the universe is full of an infinity of answers.